positive part, yeah? So if it was not for his skills, so you simply say if it was for his skills,
Yeah.
or you can drop it was for his skills. The most important thing is it becomes positive. Then second part is he would not have passed the exam, yeah?
He would pass.
So let's make it into positive.
He would pass the exam.
He would pass the exam.
Yeah.
So, and now first and second part together. It was for his skills, so he passed the exam, or he would have passed the exam. So makes sense, right? And the sentence have exact same meaning, and it's straightforward. All right? So if it was not for his skills, he would not have passed the exam. And you can say because it was for his skills, since it because of his skills, he passed the exam. Alright, make it always easier for yourself. Alright, one important thing about SAT test that you need to remember also that there will be a lot of questions that will be based on such abstract terms like, for example, values, philosophy, and understanding of complex phenomena, right? When we talk about concrete things like material things, yeah, like for example, how much money you earn or how good you are at math, these are easy to understand, right? But the hardest sentences, sentence completions are abstract. When you start to use vocabulary which talks about philosophy. For example, through the elegance and incomprehensible art of his Picasso tried to convey voluptuous messages. And you see what he talks about, it's art. And there are some voluptuous messages, right? When you talk about such a concrete thing, right? For example, the driving car is very easy. All you have to do is to turn the shift. Left, right, first, second, alright? You talk about concrete things and they are very easy to follow. But when you talk about beautiful things, art, elegant things, then at the end of the day you have to use vocabulary that is very abstract, yeah? And make sure, yeah, when you read about such things as art, to eliminate answer choices that seem too concrete, that are not really abstract. All right? For example, when you talk about, again, art and art forms, and because of his strange shapes, Picasso's art was, and there is a gap there which you have to fill in, right? And Picasso's art was mechanical, yeah? This does not really make sense because when you mean strange forms and or when you talk about art, you don't want to use terms like mechanical. Yeah, you're going to be using something which is abstract, which is hard to understand. Make sense?
Yeah.
So understand the nature of the sentence. So these two things I want you to remember for today. Yeah, let's recap before going to practice part. That one is double negatives, turn them into positive forms, both parts of sentences. And second part is transform abstract sentences, try to understand them, yeah? And make sure you don't confuse those abstract sentences for simple ones. Part of the of today's lesson, which deals with exercises, yeah, practical exercises. So, can somebody read question number 1? And remember, you gotta read. Take your time to read. SAT questions, you cannot read them fast. Take your time to read, and then go through answer choices one by one. Eliminate them. Try to eliminate them one by one. And with the ones which you cannot eliminate, you leave them, and return to them at the end. Okay, let's please start. Thank you.
The country's confidence, formerly sustained by a sense of power, was replaced by an equally exaggerated sense of following the hasty evacuation of its troops from 3 foreign capitals.
Having read this, what does this message convey to you? What does this sentence say to you?
This That country sustain something.
Give me the signaling words which will help you the
Sense of power.
exaggerated sense of power. It's very important, right? So formally the country had some exaggerated sense of power, but then it was replaced by an equally
exaggerated sense
of something. Following the hasty vocabulary. So what you tells you that equally exaggerated in the second part of the sentence means that it's the same one for the first part of the sentence. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So please let's go then now that we know the nature of the sentence, go through the answer choices.
Yes, inflated and weakness. Sustained by inflated sense of power and exaggerated sense of weakness.
How about, does it make sense to you?
Yes, it can.
Ladies and gentlemen, can somebody else also tell me, does this sentence make to you, do this word combination of words make sense?
It can.
Tell me why.
Because first is the sense of power. First part of sentence says a sense of power, and second part is not same as first part. So second part can be weakness.
It can be weakness, but what we need here is not weakness, we need exaggerated sense. So first is some type of sense of power, and second is exaggerated. So the first word should be very similar to exaggerated.
Yes.
So inflated is good because inflation is very, very similar to exaggerated. If something is inflated, yeah, I have inflated sense of being smart, right? I'm too self-confident. It means I'm too overconfident. I'm overconfident that I'm smart. All right? Ladies and gentlemen, by the way, like be a little bit more participatory, right? I mean, raise your hand and like tell us more about answer choice. Answer B. What do you think about it? Yes.
Sure. As you explained right now, it's about overconfidence. So, and the B is overwhelming, and inviolability. So about overwhelming, I think it's correct answer.
Excellent, beautiful thinking. How about inviolability?
It's like same to the overwhelming.
Beautiful, and because it's the same as overwhelming, it cannot be used because it should be something opposite. Yeah, it was exaggerated sense of power, but now we have the toughest sentences. Yeah, to page 233. Do you see it says the toughest sentences? Now turn around. Let me explain to you why it says the toughest sentences. In SAT, normally, when you answer questions, yeah, they are pretty straightforward. You have something in a sentence, then you have a gap, and you have some responses out there, some multiple choice questions, yeah? And they are pretty straightforward. If you know the words, if you understand the meaning of the sentence, then you'll have no problem in basically answering, completing those sentences. But there are such sentences in which you have double negatives, or the words are used in a very convoluted, complex way. For example, I'll give you an example of double negatives. If it were not for his skills, he would have failed the exam. You see how hard the author makes it? It's double negative. If it were not for his skills, he wouldn't have passed the exam. Makes sense? So, you could, when you encounter such a sentence in SAT, you should remember one thing, that those who test you are trying to actually make it hard for you. In real life, it's actually not nice and really elegant to use double negative, unless you try to be poetic or expressive, yeah? In real life, you want to be as communicable as possible, to make it as easy and comprehensible for the person who you are talking to, who you are engaged in a dialogue with, yeah? But in SAT, when you have these double negatives, They are there to complicate the answer choice for you, to make it harder for you to answer. So at the end of the day, there are easy ways to tackle the problem. And one of the easiest ways is simply, when you see that there is double negative, you try to make it double positive. Alright? And if you make the double positive, you are not going to lose the meaning. The sentence will preserve the meaning. For example, if it were not for his skills, he wouldn't have passed the exam, right? So, make it positive from both sentences. Can you, for example, tell me what would be the positive form of the first part of the sentence? Yes.
Erratic and hysteria. Erratic sense of power is quite similar to exaggerated sense of power.
No, be careful about it. When a person is erratic,
Not sure about
yeah, but exaggerated is not sure. Exaggerated is you think too much of what, and erratic has nothing to do with confidence or exaggeration. What does erratic mean? What does erratic mean? Erratic means simply a person who doesn't have one point. This person goes from one point to another. Alright? He cannot concentrate on one thing. Skip one point to another. Alright? So, erratic sense of power does not even make sense in the first place. And especially if we consider the meaning of the sentence, we need to be talking about feeling powerful, yeah?
Yes.
That is, and erratic does not actually give us that meaning of power we're looking for. How about the second one?
And the exaggerated sense of hysteria following the hasty evacuation of food. It's normal.
Hysteria could be used in this part of the sentence, yeah? Because hysteria is something you felt strong and now you have hysteria because you feel weak. You feel you can be violated easily, right? So you can be hysteric about it. But the point is, erratic doesn't look so good, and we either cancel it out, or if we're not sure about erratic, we put half check, yeah? Mark there and return at the end, where we cannot find a better answer. So let's go to answer D. Can you try to figure out the thing which is questionable or not? You are not trying to understand the sense of the thing, right? So you are trying to simply objectively talk about somebody thinking something of himself or herself. So unquestioned sense of power does not make sense. How about omnipotence? Does it fit in the second part?
What does it?
Omnipotent. Do you know the word potence? What does it mean? Can you please, yeah.
The ability of doing something.
Potential, right? It comes from the word potential, and potential comes from the Latin root, which is potent, that is power. Alright? So, omnipotent, omnibus, it's like everywhere, everything, excellent. So, omnipotent is all-powerful, very strong. So, exaggerated sense of omnipotence, does it really make sense here? What's the word we are looking for here? Weakness, exactly, because they felt powerful, now they feel weak. And how about E? Anybody? Yes, please?
Arbitrary resolution, and arbitrary quite matches the sense, but resolution doesn't.
Because we have to have a power, right, in the second part, the weakness. And resolution, please don't confuse with the word when you resolve something, yeah? Because when you resolve, you solve something. A resolution in English can also mean that you are brave, you are determined, all right? But even the first part, though, arbitrary, yeah? When you talk about arbitrary, it's the same as erratic. We're looking for the word that tells us about the strength, exaggerated sense, right? And arbitrary is not really exaggerated. Also, I can see where you are going, but it's again like exaggerated, arbitrary is not objective, it's not rational. But arbitrary does not exaggerate. Arbitrary is simply wrong. It's simply capricious. You know, you simply say, I want to do this and I do this. So there is no logic in this. I can arbitrarily tell you, like, go away from here. You know, just like that. And this would be my arbitrary. Something strikes me in the head and I tell this to you. And that's why it's very similar to erratic. Alright, so after analyzing all of this, we are clearly left with answer A, yeah? It's the best answer so far. Because, I mean, all other answers simply look weak. Alright, can you please read question number 2 for me?
According to the first regulators of this numerical progressive phonetics do not try to change but simple relation old and discrete theories of logical philosophy.
Okay, tell me what does this sentence tell you? Please. Tell us, yes.
I don't know if I understood this correctly, but I'll just say.
Sure.
So, as I understood, these leaders don't really want to make changes, but like refresh something.
Yes. Refresh or something like take the same thing and just present it in a different way. Like populists come and talk to you, yeah, in politics. They don't really want to change anything because somebody buys them, like somebody holds them with their pockets, yeah. And but at the end of the day, they just come, talk to you, try to convince you, say all these beautiful things, and then come to power, for example, and don't do anything. Makes sense, right? So this is that type of thing, that type of sentence.